In this lecture, we'll see how we can get a reverse connection from our Weevely shell. So at the moment, we uploaded Weevely and we're connecting to it directly using this URL. So when we hit enter, we're actually just doing a direct connection, and it's as if we're just interacting with a normal PHP script uploaded on that directory. So what we want to do is, maybe in some cases you can't really run commands like this. So right now I can run whatever command I want, whatever Linux command. We also seen how we can use the shell sh function that comes with Weevely to try and bypass if we can't run commands. If none of that works, or if you wanted just an actual direct reverse connection from the target web server to our machine, then you can follow what I'm going to do in this lecture. It can be really handy because you'll have a direct connection and you'll be able to bypass a lot of security measurements. So we're going to do help first to see the options that we have. And the function that I want to use today is the reverse, backdoor reverse TCP. And it basically just gives you a reverse TCP shell. So it won't be executed through PHP. It'll be a reverse shell, reverse connection coming from the target server towards your computer. And because of that, it'll bypass firewalls because the connection is coming out of the web server, not to the web server. So the first thing we're going to do is, as usual, we're just going to run backdoor reverse TCP. And I'm going to put -h to see the options that we can get with this function. And you can see the way to use it is the first thing you need to specify the name of the function, followed by the type of shell. So we're going to leave that the same. You can tell it not to auto connect, but we don't want that. We actually want it to automatically connect. And then you can specify the vector. And again, the vector is very important, and it specifies the way the reverse connection will be spawned. So you can use netcat. It can be done through netcat. It can be done through Python. It can be done through Perl, Ruby. These are all programming languages. So if the target server doesn't have netcat installed, or if it has certain security or permissions that prevent you from using netcat, then you can try to get your shell through Python. If Python is not installed, or if it has some sort of measurements that prevent Python from connecting back to you, then you can do it through Perl. And again, if Perl is configured in a way that it's not allowed to spawn reverse connections, you can do it through Ruby. And again, you can use any of these vectors until one of them works for you. And once one of them works for you, chances are you're going to be able to bypass a lot of security measurements. Definitely, you'll be able to run bash commands on the target server. So if you can't run bash commands normally, and if you tried the shell sh function that we seen in an earlier video and still didn't work for you, then you should come to this, try this method. If it works, then you'll be able to run any shell commands you want on the target server. So let's try it in action. So we're going to type in backdoor reverse TCP. We're going to give it the vector. And I'm going to want to use netcat. And then we're going to give it, depending on this, as you can see, so we did that and we gave it the vector. Then we need to give it our local host, so the IP address of our current computer, followed by the port that we want the connection to be done through. So to get the IP address of my computer, I'm just going to run ifconfig. And you can see that my IP address is 10.20.14.213. So I'm going to close this. And then we're going to give it the port, and I'm going to set the port to 8080. So the command is very simple. Backdoor reverse TCP, vector, which is going to be netcat. And then we put our current IP address, followed by the port that we want the connection to be done through. I'm going to hit enter. And now the connection is established. So now we can run any commands we want. And keep in mind that these commands will be executed through netcat. So the connection is coming back now from the server to us, and now we're communicating with it through a completely different port. It's not going to go through Weevely, it's actually going to go through netcat. So if there was some sort of security that didn't allow us to run commands through Weevely, then we'll be able to bypass them now. So now we can use it. We're going to do pwd, for example, and we have to add a semicolon after it. You can see that where we are, we can do a who am I. Seems like we lost our connection, so I'm just going to do it back. So again, we can do a who am I. We can pretty much do any command we want. Now again, if this didn't really work for you, you can go ahead and try a different vector. You can try the Python, you can try the Perl. After each of these vectors, try to see who am I and see the current permissions or the current user that you're running as, because you might actually be running under a different user. One thing to keep in mind here is your IP. Because the connection is a reverse connection, so it's coming back from the target web server to your computer. Therefore, at the moment, I'm actually using a private IP within my current network, but it works because the website is on the same network. If I was doing this against a real website, this won't work because my private IP is not accessible publicly because it's hidden behind the router. So if you want to receive connections, if you want to receive reverse connections from an actual web server, and if you're not on the same network as that web server, then you need to either set up your Kali machine as a DMZ host, or you need to enable IP forwarding to enable the port that you're using here, so 8080 in this case, to be forwarded to your private IP. You can do both of these things from the control panel of your router. Your router is usually located at the first IP. So my IP now is 10.20.14.213. The router is usually at the first IP, so it will be at the 1. So you can access that through the browser, look for the option called DMZ, and set the Kali machine as a DMZ host. Another option is to go to port forwarding, add a rule to forward port 8080 to the IP of the Kali machine. Also, make sure the Kali machine is connected to your actual network and it's not set up as a NAT network like this. So make sure you have a wireless card connected to your home network, and from there you will have an actual IP in your network instead of a private virtual IP like we have here.